Hey there, Suzi here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to share this special message with you. Now, my co-host Michelle and I love masterminds. Not only do we belong to masterminds, but we also host a mastermind. We started it almost 8 years ago, and it is the premier mastermind for women business owners who want to grow their business with a specific focus on marketing. Now, this group is usually completely booked out, and very occasionally we open the doors and invite a handful of women in. So if you're growing your business, but you're struggling with feeling overwhelmed, or like you constantly have a split focus when it comes to your marketing, this could be exactly what you're looking for. We have an amazing time together, and the women in the group are extraordinary. They're great cheerleaders, supporters, advisors, and colleagues for you. And they're also seeing extraordinary results. We see people cracking the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million mark, launching new e-commerce sites that go from $0 to $10,000 a month in sales. They're doubling their conversion rates, they're growing memberships, they're selling courses, they're growing their personal brands, and they're getting all kinds of media exposure and speaking opportunities and so much more. You can learn more about the mastermind and join the wait list over at herbusinessmastermind.com. We're going to open the doors soon, so you definitely want to be on the list to get an invitation. So head on over to herbusinessmastermind.com. Hi, you're listening to the Content Source Podcast, the show all about how to create content to attract, convert, and keep your ideal clients. Welcome to episode 222. I'm Suzi Dafnis, and here with me is my co-host, Michelle Falzon. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Hey, Suzi, I'm doing very, very well, thank you. How are you?
I am great. As this episode goes to air, we will actually be in Hawaii at the Reese Retreat, one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite places on the planet. And we've got some amazing businesswomen joining us for a whole week of pausing, creating the space to reset their vision, tapping into their heart's desire, getting really clear about what they want and how to get there in their business and life. I couldn't be happier.
Oh, I love that for you, and I love that for me. I cannot wait. I agree. This is such a special program in such a special place with such special people, and I am so looking forward to reaching with everyone this year. I agree with you completely. Cannot wait. Now, Suzi, today's show is all about the power of an MVP, and I thought it might be good to start just with like a definition of what the heck does MVP mean. Some of us know, some of us don't. And MVP stands for Minimum Viable Product, MVP. And it's all about getting to market with those bare essentials of your product or program and then testing that idea, like getting to market fast without all the bells and whistles and just saying, is this what the market actually wants? Is this something I like doing? Is this solving a need that's actually really there? Before you overinvest in and create the entire fully fleshed out bells and whistles version of the product. So it's launching early, launching fast with something that's quite imperfect, getting market feedback, tweaking and changing if you need to, and then launching in a more sort of formal way where you might put a bit more resources behind it. So you want to avoid this idea of creating the bells and whistles version in isolation and then launching it. You want to get to market quickly and get customer feedback as soon as you possibly can. When people buy something, this is what I've found anytime I've launched an MVP, and you are still selling the MVP, and we'll talk a bit about how you do that. You might be thinking, how do you sell the bare bones essential? Well, we'll tell you about that. But when people buy something, they are not backward in coming forward in telling you what they do and don't like. So you get this fantastic market feedback early on. And even the ability to sell the MVP at all, even having people give you any money for it, tells you a lot about whether you're solving a problem that people need solved. And failing to take this MVP approach is what leads to that garage full of books that don't sell, or the board game stacked high in the spare room, or that online course that you've literally slaved over and had produced and that totally misses the mark and falls flat. It really, really can be so heartbreaking. And I know, Suzi, both of us have had heartbreaks in sympathy for other people who've gone through this, and, you know, probably had a few of our own as well. And this MVP approach can save you making some big and expensive mistakes. And the really great part that I have come to love about it is you actually enlist your customers to help you create your product, and they're doing it for free. In fact, they're kind of paying you. They're buying your MVP version. And that whole process just makes it better and easier and more likely to sell when you do the full launch.
And we can explain how all that works, but you're absolutely right about it being heartbreaking. My heart hurts when I see women put blood, sweat and tears into creating a product or service, a program, a membership, and then finding that you've missed the mark. It doesn't only feel horrible, but it can be devastating to your business. You could totally overinvest in something that's not going to work. And that's why you want to test your ideas early and go to market with a beta version, so a nearly complete prototype of your product or service, or something that approximates your ultimate vision for your product or service, but that you can create quickly, cheaply, just to prove that the concept actually works, that someone needs and wants this thing that you're offering. So, for example, let's say you've got a plan for an online course, and who doesn't these days? Before you go and spend money on a professional video studio and editing and script writing it and getting the sales page done and spending hours recording the course and making all the handouts, how could you go to market with, say, a live webinar that covers the core concept that you're going to cover in your course? Or how can you make a simple version of the first part of the course using, I don't know, say your iPhone, or that's only delivered in writing via email? This is going to tell you early and fast if your idea is something that your market actually wants and what changes you need to make. And I just want to say, we're not saying put something out that's shoddy. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying something that approximates what it's going to be, that is a prototype version. So I just wanted to make that additional step, because we're not saying put out stuff that's crap. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, and it really depends too, I think, for each person what your definition of crap is, because I've put some stuff out that didn't look very good, but it was still really good content. Like, we didn't just half-ass it. We actually, thought about it. We gave value. You don't want to ever have somebody buy something from you that they could see no value in. So, yeah, our intention needs to be that we are adding value. But here's the thing, and you want to maybe check out some of our other episodes, especially the one on perfectionism. We've got typically such a high bar that I think when we put stuff out in this MVP way, it can feel shoddy. We can think, oh, this is too shoddy. I could never put out an iPhone version of this. You know what I mean? But you can. You can. You don't want to make it so that it is not delivering value, so that it is like so dark people can't see your face or anything like that. But you want to just be aware of that line that you might have, like your shoddy line might be so high up. And the MVP thinking is really about like practicing being okay with it being less than perfect. And I do think this is a great episode to maybe listen to in conjunction with our episode on perfectionism, which we will definitely share the link to on today's show notes. And Suzi, you're talking about ways to potentially, take that online course, and instead of doing the months of preparation and investing and all those things. Not that you have to do that for every online course, by the way, but we've seen people do that. I've seen people hire a studio, hire scriptwriters, spend $30,000 unnecessarily on an online course before they even did the course once as a like cheapy lo-fi version, an MVP version. And no surprise when it doesn't hit the mark, and now they're $30,000 in the hole. We don't want that for you. Yeah. We don't want you to spend $30,000 making a course either, by the way, but that's another episode. But so this idea of like how this might look in the real world, I recall working with a client of mine a few years ago, and he had a ton of experience with a particular topic, and he had a great audience, a big community. He asked me to come in to help him create a brand new online course on a topic that was just adjacent to what he was known for. So, he had years of experience with the topic he was known for, and he was seeing this need for his audience to learn about something that happens just before that, actually, before that part of the process he taught them. And it was something he was absolutely an expert in, but he'd never taught it before. So it was teaching people to do something he'd done very successfully himself, but he had never made a product on it. And so we worked together to unpack his intellectual property. What is it that he does? What's his process? And we kind of nutted out what we think, what we thought would be a good way to teach that process to somebody else. And this is what Suzi was saying about quality. We spent the time unpacking his IP and hand on heart really thought this is a great process. We back and forth. I actually flew to the States. I spent some days with him. We, he invested in me. So just as you're thinking about the MVP, he sort of did what he needed to do to get the MVP to a point where he knew he was going to, A, be testing the right thing, the idea that was what he wanted to go on with, and B, that would deliver some value to students, even if it wasn't quite right or quite on the money, or even if it was delivered in a pretty lo-fi way. So we kind of came up with the framework. We think, yeah, this is really good. Let's not go straight to creating the glossy course. Let's put an MVP course together. And I want to just flesh out for you, kind of dimensionalize for you what this MVP looked like. Because remember, the MVP, minimum viable product. What's the minimum you can do to make this a course? What's the minimum you can do to make it viable, the thing that you want to test? So literally, we did the bare minimum to prove the concept. Do people even need to know about this thing? Are they interested? Is the framework that we're sharing useful? Is it too complicated? Is it not complicated enough? Is it too basic? Is it too advanced? All of that stuff we wanted to test. Now, here's what it looked like going to market with a bare minimum product, a minimum viable product. It wasn't scripted. We didn't even have slides or anything created visually. After we got the basic outline of what we thought the course would be, which was basically following the framework that he and I worked on, I just made a series of bullets in a Google Doc, and he put the Google Doc up on the screen, on a big TV actually, in his lounge room, so he could see it large, and he was just able to ad lib off the bullet points. And we came up with a few sort of simple diagrams about how you might communicate this point, and he literally drew those diagrams on flip chart paper in real time. So we did a live webinar just using Zoom, I think it was Zoom, and he was in his lounge room with a flip pad and some bullet points on the screen. Obviously, the people watching couldn't see the bullet points. It was sort of like treating his TV screen like a teleprompter. And we delivered 3 modules of this over 3 weeks. So almost apart from that prep we did to kind of figure out what the framework was, what the main beats were of the course, that was zero production. Grab a flip chart pad. Nobody even helped him film it. He had, I think, his iPhone or his laptop on a shelf or something. But here's the thing, we didn't give it away. Even though it wasn't beautiful, we didn't give it away. Part of the MVP approach is testing, will people pay money for this? So here's what we did though, and even the fact that it's not glossy can actually be quite intriguing and appealing to people. It has its own inherent value, especially when you can frame it with some great marketing messaging. So we went out with a marketing campaign that said, hey, brand new course. This is something I've done for years. I've never shared it before. Who wants in on the ground floor version? I've just putting together my initial thoughts, and I'm looking for some people to actually jump in and get this information first. It's rough and ready, but it's all our best stuff on this topic, our best thinking so far, and you'll get it first. And we're going to give it to you for a massive 80% discount on what it will be when we launch the finished version. All I ask is that you give me feedback each week so that I can see what's landing, what needs improving, and what we're missing. I'd love to have you on my inner circle on the ground floor. Who doesn't think that's a fantastic marketing message? Who doesn't think we got people interested in that? Sure enough, we got a ton of interest and we ran the program. The information was good, even though the way we were delivering it was pretty basic, and we kind of turned that to our advantage as well. And you know what? It was great. I absolutely loved this experience. At the end of each session, because remember, we'd set this up in advance. Hey, we're going to give this to you. You'll be the first to hear it. It's not beautiful, but it's all our best stuff, and we really want and need your feedback. People love that. They love, because who are you promoting this to? Usually the people that already know and love you. So they loved it. And at the end of each session, we had a little survey pre-prepared, that we sent people a link to. And in fact, at the end of the session, the live session, we actually asked them to complete it live on the session. That's just a little side tip that will get you a lot more compliance if you actually take people through the feedback form in your live training. So because they felt this sense of reciprocity, we'd set this agreement up at the start. We're giving you this steal of a deal. All we ask is that you give us feedback each week. People were super generous with their feedback and they felt included. They were like, oh my gosh, like I actually have a say in how this goes. So there's a huge trust and rapport that gets built with your audience when they see you as someone who is prepared to get their feedback, incorporate their ideas. You want to build something they really need. It is hugely, hugely valuable. And Suzi, that feedback was incredible. It was invaluable. And I poured through it, as did my client, and we discovered as we kind of looked at it that even though we'd thought we'd pitch the content at a beginner's level, there was a concept that we shared in week 1. Really, we covered it in just the first few minutes and we thought everybody would know that and we sort of skipped over it actually. It was assumed knowledge. What we realized was that people got stuck there. And the big feedback was, hey, I didn't really understand that. And then I felt like I couldn't move on. We kind of stumped them right at the start. And we realized we had to spend a lot more time teaching that. We'd essentially made this classic mistake, which is often the case when you're doing something new, right? And you're learning what does the market need and want. And you've got all this knowledge. Where do you pitch it? We'd essentially pitched the training too high. It was too advanced. And so the finished product, and here's just a little side tip. What we did, we realized this in week 1. And so in week 2, we kind of pivoted and went back to that point that we'd missed and taught people a lot more about it. And so the finished product was actually us basically chopping off the last half of the training that we thought we were going to deliver that turned out to be too advanced and spending a lot more time on these what we thought were basic concepts. So just to recap, unpack the IP, came up with a framework we thought would be great, went to market super fast with a highly discounted product with very low production value, but really good information with this idea that people would give us feedback. We baked that into them buying the product. We got the feedback. Importantly, we looked at the feedback and we looked at the feedback immediately after we went live with session 1. We pivoted, we went back because it's live and they know we're working on this product. We were able to say, hey, a lot of you told us this was pitched too high. We're going to go back to this initial concept and dig into that a bit more. Is that all okay? And people are like, yeah, we love it. Great. And so we then launched this program that had been tried and tested. People did want to buy it. It was pitched at the right level and it went on to be a hugely successful program. And here's the great thing. We're able to make that glossier, higher priced version with confidence and launch it to the market. This was the kicker, with a ton of social proof from those MVP buyers. We were able to show screenshots of them saying, this is the best training ever. And, oh my gosh, I love this training so much. Oh, I've already implemented and made, X, Y, Z benefits in my life. And so the MVP can also help you go to market with your proper launch with customer stories already baked in.
That is such a wonderful example of co-creation and such a wonderful example of just being nimble in your marketing. So exciting just to hear you retell that. But so much that I want to unpack. And what I love about that story, Michelle, is that it illustrates how an MVP can be a win-win approach. Like you get to market quickly without having to spend a whole lot of money and time on production, as you said, and you can even get paid to test the idea with your market and you get those amazing testimonials. And the thing is, you don't have to hide that you're launching with a minimal viable product from your market. In fact, you can be overt about it and use it as a strategy to get those early buyers who want to get in on the ground floor. They want to get the savings. They want to be part of something exciting. And you set it up for great reciprocity because you've got this fantastic deal that's never going to happen again. And they're more ready and prepped to give you feedback that you can actually bake into the final product by asking for that feedback, like you said, right from the start. What I also want to point out about what you said was that when we're an expert, like your client was, it can be really easy to suffer from the curse of knowledge. We forget what it's like to be a beginner. And like you said, it was pitched too high. And so what can happen is that we end up being too advanced. We put too much information into our program. We try and squeeze every little bit of everything we know into our product and service, which makes it really hard to use. Or we forget that that beginner's mind, and we expect too much knowledge from the outset or skill from the outset of our customers, and we can really miss the mark when we're doing that. And when you've invested a lot of time and money into something, it's much harder to pull it apart and start again, not to mention expensive. So when we talked earlier about we don't want you to spend $30,000 on a course and then find out that there's no market for it, that it's not the right price, that those modules are not right, or that whatever it is. But when you've begun the project with this MVP, minimal viable product mindset, and you put something to market quickly and inexpensively, you can be a lot more responsive, like Michelle explained. You can be responsive to the market needs, wants, likes, doesn't like. You're not worried about making changes. In fact, that's the whole idea, is that you're trying it out. You're checking to see, is it viable? Will it fly? And this approach can work for all kinds of things, of course, Michelle, not just online courses.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm hoping as you're listening now, you can map that online course example maybe to something that you're doing. You can make an MVP version of your e-commerce store. Instead of investing tens of thousands of dollars in a complex, highly automated online store, start off, what is the minimum way this idea, this offer could be viable? You could start off selling one product via email, going straight to PayPal. You don't even have a site. It really is the minimum amount of information or structure or support or whatever it is that you can provide in order for someone to buy from you and get that deliverable, get that transformation. The same goes with testing the format of something you're thinking of offering. For example, if you're contemplating offering a year-long coaching program, definitely consider starting that with an MVP version, which is just a 30-day coaching experience. Absolutely, right?
Definitely.
Just put out a 30-day, like, maybe you've worked one-to-one with people for a really long time and you think, oh, come on, there's got to be a better way. I'm going to do a group program. Don't start with a 12-month out of the gate program. Try and approximate that with a 30-day group program where, it's real low-fi. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles. You don't have to have millions of people in the program. So just exactly like what we said before with the course example, you can price it competitively so you get people jumping in without having to do a lot of heavy lifting on the marketing. Maybe it's just a few phone calls or some social posts instead of having to go and create a whole big campaign, right? All of this helps you get to the market faster and less expensively. And both you and the people who buy the program can have the experience of what it's like to do a group program. And if you find as the deliverer of that program you don't like it, here's the beautiful thing. You can just simply decide never to offer that 30-day program again and to shelve that idea of running a full year-long program. Done and dusted, hasn't cost you a lot. You've probably covered your costs because you got people to pay for that 30-day program. And you can move along. Or you can find, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I've learned so much. In fact, what I need to do is, I was thinking I could have 30 people in the program. I think I could probably have 50 people in the program. Or actually, I was thinking I'd have 30. Maybe I actually need to limit it to 10 and charge more because I'm finding they need a lot more of my time. Or whatever it is, you will learn so much from that MVP. But I tell you what, it's much harder to turn off a 12-month program once you've started it. And I am speaking to you all from hard-won personal experience. I did that once a long time ago, and I really wish I knew then what I know now and had taken my own advice and done a short-form MVP because I really didn't love the format and I was stuck in it for a year. So the other thing is your clients in the program, if you're getting people paying you to be in your beta version, your MVP version, they're going to give you invaluable feedback that is definitely, I say this hand on my heart, definitely going to help you to make a more successful launch when you launch that more fully fledged program later.
It's a totally different approach. And I hope as you're listening, you're thinking, I get it. I really get this because it's coming at it from being the scientist in your business and being prepared to see new marketing initiatives or new products and services as an experiment. I'm going to try this out and make this short-term commitment. And like any great scientist, you don't rush straight into building the finished product. You begin with testing, getting feedback along the way, gathering evidence to prove that your idea can really fly before you invest a lot more time and money in shifting from the prototype to the fully fledged model. And once you've done this, you start to see how much easier it makes life. This MVP approach is something that we are working on bringing more and more into our business so that we can be more agile and test more ideas without it being costly in terms of time or money, my time, the team's time, contractors, everyone associated with it. And here's the other byproduct of this MVP approach, and that is that you can sometimes find that the MVP version works just fine and you don't need to overinvest in the way that you thought you might need to originally. So, for example, when we launched the marketing mastermind experience, the 30-day program that Michelle and I run together, we launched definitely with this MVP marketing approach. We had no sales page, no order form. We simply asked people to hit reply to our email to express their interest. And then we sent them a very simple survey form where they could answer a few questions, including their willingness to pay the price for the program. And from there, we sent them a message back saying they'd been accepted or they hadn't. We gave them a link if they were accepted so they could go ahead and pay. It was incredibly low tech. And what we found was that our results were so great, we've never actually changed this approach. This no marketing funnel actually worked extraordinarily well, and it still does 4 years down the line. Now, we could have waited until we had a perfect sales page and all the tech set up and perhaps never got the thing going at all, or delayed the launch, hustling to get it all done, but would have just been overinvesting in what was needed to get amazing results for this particular offer. And I just love that it is one of the simplest things that we do any year, and it gets such a great result every single time we run that program.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what we were saying before, Suzi, like sometimes going out with that bare bones kind of offer is in contrast to all the other glossy marketing we might be doing. And it stands out as a result. I was just watching Pamela Anderson has just gone to the Paris Fashion Week wearing no makeup. And it's kind of a statement of like, you know what, you can be natural beauty and things like that. But she's standing out from all the people that are there completely dolled up. And I'm thinking, gosh, isn't this funny? All the people at home that are putting like hours into their makeup, and the person with no makeup is the one that's actually getting all the press from the event. So sometimes you can sort of zig a little bit with your marketing and people pay attention. So this MVP approach, exactly as you said, Suzi, can literally become, well, actually, this worked great. Why do we change it? And even I'm thinking about the way we deliver the mastermind experience, Suzi. That is delivered in a Facebook group. We set up a Facebook group. Right. We do some Zoom sessions. We pop the resources in as guides inside the Facebook group. It is incredibly MVP. Now, we're also approximating the Facebook group that we offer our masterminders, and there's a few strategic reasons why we do that. But you don't need a big glossy course portal, or you don't need all of these things that you think you need that are holding you back from taking action right now, from launching right now, from getting some customers right now, from figuring out if that idea that's in your head will actually be a brilliant idea that could be the thing that, helps you unlock all these goals that you have. So it's so true what you're saying, Suzi. I think there is a real trap in over-investing in so many areas in our business, or being stopped from doing something because we think we have to over-invest. And the MVP approach really saves us from falling into that trap. So as you're listening right now, what are some of the things you might be over-investing in? And what's a product or a marketing initiative that you have wanted to get off the ground that you could possibly take an MVP approach to so that you can get it out into the world faster and so that you can gain some momentum and get that traction? Where can you be putting your white lab coat on and becoming that scientist and experimenting in your business?
And these are great questions, and I encourage you to take a little time to reflect on them. Really simply having more of an MVP mindset, it can really help you grow faster and create better products sooner, find more marketing strategies that work, find what doesn't work, but really save yourself the heartache of over-investing too much time and money and effort and resources into something that some simple, inexpensive experimentation could have told you needed to be done differently, or perhaps not at all in some cases?
I really hope we've inspired you to think about how you can implement an MVP more often in your business.
Yeah, so short and sweet episode today, but, really deep in other ways. And so you could say this is a minimal viable information to get our point across and get this information in your hands. So there are a couple of great articles and resources on this idea of the minimal viable product concept, and we're going to include those in today's show notes, and I'll tell you where to get those in just a minute. But just before we go, we want to thank you so much for listening. We love to share these tips with as many business owners as possible. So we would love it if you would do us a huge favor and head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or a review. We have over 100 5-star reviews, and we're grateful for each and every person who has left us a rating or review. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, and you'd be happy to do that, we would be forever grateful. And we want to give a shout out to someone who, off of his own back, decided over on LinkedIn actually to write a wonderful review about one of our recent episodes, and that is Trevor Young. You might know him. He's a content and digital communication strategist, very well known in that area. He's the creator of the Credible Authority Academy, and he'd listened to an episode called How Owning More Space Helps You Reach More People with Your Content Marketing. Now, this is a few months back, but it's one of those episodes that gets referenced time and time again. And he talked about he pulled out a number of points from the episode that he really, really enjoyed. And he even made the distinction that we talked about the difference between owning more space versus taking more space. And he said that we go on to share practical tips on how to be bigger and own more space in the places that matter to us. And he said, a highly recommended episode from a top-notch, consistently good podcast. And here's the link on Spotify. So very generous. Thank you so much, Trevor, for taking the time to do that, and to not only saying, hey, I really love this podcast, but to actually really listening and pulling out the things that your followers on LinkedIn could resonate with. So thank you so much for that. So we've mentioned a number of things here on the show that can be found in today's show notes. So where you find those show notes is over on our website. So at herbusiness.com/Power MVP, that's POWER MVP, all one word, is where you will find those links and resources. Michelle, that's our episode for today. Anything you want to say before we go?
I'm loving the MVP approach to the episode. And I wanted to say, Trevor, thank you so much for that awesome review. Trevor, I haven't seen Trevor for ages, but he and I actually did a speaking tour around the country a number of years ago. He's an excellent guy. Definitely check out the work that he does in the world. And I want to just say, if you've got some work that you're putting out into the world, or you want to put out into the world, this MVP is the way to unlock it. You don't have to have it all perfect to get started. This is your permission. This is your strategy. This is your way forward to get it out there. Get people to pay you something for it. Get them co-creating and collaborating with you. Then you can launch with confidence. Go the MVP.
Let us know how you go. You can always reach us via our Content Sales podcast page over on Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Content Sales podcast. Bye for now.